I would say education. We're going to lose jobs. The city's going to shrink further. And there's nothing wrong with being a city of 400,000 or even 350,000. Look at Portland, Oregon, which is a wonderful city. I'm very happy to be 350,000. But I put education as a priority ahead of jobs because that's what's going to bring people back into the city if the schools become good. It's what's going to train people, educate people for the future. Nothing can be done exclusively. That's why I'm talking about a vision that has to take in many, many different things. But if there were one priority that we should be thinking about, it is education. And that's from the top at Case and Cleveland State and all that, right down into the lower schools and the preschools. I mentor a kid from the inner city, and I can tell you, it's almost impossible to find a decent school for geographic reasons, for all kinds of reasons. I mean, unless you happen to be living on the Shoreway at 55th Street, how do you get to Horizon Academy? These places are just not accessible, particularly for families that are, holding down two jobs and don't have the means of transportation to get to these places. And I watched this kid's report card keep coming back, and he's not learning anything. He's got nobody to help him. And he's a very bright kid. He got up and read a poem at the Anisfield Wolf Book Awards recently, and he was a real hit. But right now in school, he's not doing well.
Yes, Charles.
Yeah.
You touched briefly on the visa program. I know that in Philadelphia, how do we get over the xenophobia of foreign investment? We tax ourselves to death to build a new convention center when there are Chinese that would give us twice as much money to build that center for us, and we wouldn't have to tax ourselves. But we basically say we don't want their money. How can we overcome that? Because most of the projects that we talk about, they say there's no funding. There's a lot of funding, we just don't like the source of it.
Well, people who object to I'm told I should never use the word immigrants, but investors, foreign investors, are being very short-sighted. They're in effect shooting themselves in the foot. It's through a lot of foreign investment that we can start creating new jobs and new opportunities for people who are already here. The fact that the money comes from China, so what? I mean, let's take it and give these guys, a green card, or guarantee them a green card in 18 months or whatever it takes. When Cleveland needed more workers to staff the factories, someone woke up one day and said, wait a minute, we don't have any Polish people here. Well, they went out and recruited Polish people, and they built Slavic Village for them. That's what they cared about, immigrants then. And let's face it, immigrants are what really built this city, as they built America.
Thanks for coming, Mr. Michener. Appreciate you being here. Wanted to ask you what you're up to next Tuesday, if we could continue the dialogue then. Appreciate it. Also wanted to find out if you knew that your 2005 New Yorker article inspired a presentation here from, I think it's John Lynch, who's head of the Americans for the Arts, about a year or so after that. So thank you for helping us put that together with the ideas you had in that article. Also wanted to ask you if you see any ways in which old media is covering the region that may be part of the problem.
As Susan knows, I've had some serious differences with the plain dealer, but I must say largely before her arrival. One of the first articles that struck me when I returned, or just before I returned, was allegedly an article about Aggie Gund, the president of the Museum of Modern Art, who I went to school with, and she lives in New York, and she's of course a member of the Gund family here. And it began by saying in 1926 or whatever it was, John D. Rockefeller left Cleveland. And it went on for 3 more paragraphs about all the people who had left Cleveland. I said, wait a minute, I thought I was reading a profile of Aggie Gund. I'm told recently, although I can't be sure about this, that when the Cleveland Orchestra was named by Gramophone magazine, a group of critics, the 7th best in the world, there was a headline somewhere here, Cleveland Orchestra, not one of the top 5. There's been too much of that. in the media here. However, I don't think this, I don't want to, I have great admiration for what Susan is doing at the Plain Dealer under very, very tough circumstances. And I know that the Plain Dealer cares deeply about the city. And I read it every morning with great interest, as I do Cranes and anything else I can get my hands on. I do think that the area could benefit from a bi-weekly or a weekly or something, a very high-end kind of thoughtful, really factual, well-reported journal that covers all aspects of the city. Cranes does a pretty good job on the economic front, on the business side, but we need something that looks at the whole picture regularly. And it's difficult for a paper like the Plain Dealer, which is trying to do so many things, to do that thing on a regular basis that gives it impact.
Thank you for your comments. I'm an attorney at the Legal Aid Society here in Cleveland, and I'm wondering, in the research for your book, what are you doing to talk with or meet with members of the low-income community who now make up 30% of the city's population?
Well, I've met with many of them, but I have not darkened the doors of the Legal Aid Society yet. But you will hear a knock one day. You know, as I've said, I'm working with this young man on the west side, whose mother works in a plastics factory from 3:30 in the afternoon till midnight, whose father works at Avis near the airport. He's all by himself all the time. There are no parents at home. He's got two parents, which is a lot, but he doesn't have any of the support that two parents would suggest. It's very, very tough on these kids. And so I'm, through him and through other people whom I've met, I am aware of all this very deeply. I've spent some time at E-Prep with John Zitzner, who's here, I think, and which is a fantastic school, and seeing what can happen when smart, responsible older people really bear down on these younger people and keep them, by the way, in school from dawn to dusk, because when they go home, there's nothing there.
You mentioned manufacturing and sustainability. I suspect you've been talking to entrepreneurs for sustainability in Holly Harlem. I wonder if you might mention what they're doing to the group here.
Well, BioEnterprise, which is run by a brilliant young leader, Baiju Shah, is attracting lots and lots of businesses here. Jumpstart is doing a good job on that, and Team Neo. I could name hundreds of them. I hate to think of the glossary in my book with all these acronyms, but again, I go back, there are many, many individual things going on all over this region. There's no great coalescence of them because there's no overall vision to attach it to. So things seem to happen willy-nilly, they happen on an ad hoc basis, and then everybody scrambles, oh my God, and everybody says, wait a minute, is the medical mart a good idea? Really? Are people going to actually use a medical mart? Well, why wasn't that question asked at the beginning? I wasn't here when they put the Brown Stadium on the old footprint of Municipal Stadium, you know, one of the most colossally boneheaded moves of all time, to take that extraordinary piece of land and turn it into a place that is used 8 nights a year. Come on. Again, it's a lack of coordination, a lack of overall vision. Manufacturing, my guru there is Dan Moore, who points out that there are a tremendous number of manufacturing businesses still here who need far fewer workers than they used to need because of technology.